Morning, everybody. It's the 1st of July, 2020, Wednesday, the 1st of July, 2020, and we're on the Financial Times website. There was a story on the front of the website that said Weinstein's bankrupt studio to pay $24 million to accusers under settlement. Deal doesn't require former movie mogul and convicted rapist to admit any wrongdoing. Interesting the way they say accusers and not victims. Settlement, meaning it won't go to court. Deal, meaning they've come to an agreement. And most importantly of all, he doesn't have to say that he's done anything wrong. So he's a convicted rapist, although he's only been convicted of like one or two out of the hundreds and hundreds of alleged rapes. And he doesn't have to admit any wrongdoing. Harvey Weinstein was sentenced in March to 23 years in prison for sex offences. Harvey Weinstein's bankrupt film studio has agreed a $47 million settlement that will allocate more than $20 million to dozens of women who accused him of sexual assault and harassment, but doesn't require the convicted rapist to admit any wrongdoing. The deal, which settles lawsuits filed by the New York Attorney General as well as individual women, allocates more than $12 million towards paying legal fees for Weinstein Company defendants, $7 million for creditors, and $24 million to Weinstein's accusers. The Weinstein Company's insurers are covering the settlement costs. I wonder if the insurers are themselves the creditors and they're paying themselves back a little bit. Maybe they're paying themselves back the money that he originally paid them. Who knows? The deal releases accusers from any non-disclosure agreements with the Weinstein Company. So the accusers can say whatever they like, but the point is they've been paid now, so they're not going to they're probably not allowed to get paid any more money, in which case the papers won't publish anything by them because they'll say, well, look, you've already been paid and you've settled out of court, so it's no longer a crime, so it's no longer news. It also includes a clause that the settlement does not mean that the defendants are admitting any wrongdoing, liability, fault, or violation of the law. So basically, if anyone accuses him of anything, having had the non-disclosure agreement dropped, then he can just turn around and say, you've been paid by me, I'm not a criminal, and you're not allowed to say that I've done anything wrong because you took the money. Tuesday's agreement is unrelated to a New York criminal court case that found Weinstein guilty of sexual assault and third-degree rape, sending the former movie mogul to prison for 23 years, although he's probably appealing that. The New York Attorney General touted the settlement, which must be approved by bankruptcy in federal district court, as a victory. The New York Attorney General. These survivors are finally receiving some justice, said Letitia James, calling the deal a win for every woman who's experienced sexual harassment, discrimination, intimidation, or retaliation by her employer. That's such posturing, isn't it? Because most of the women that have been in this position have got nothing, and these women are getting a bit of money, but he's getting away with it because he's saying that he hasn't committed any crimes. And he's not even paying for it himself because it's his insurers. However, some accusers reject the settlement, including actress Weddell David, who accused Weinstein of rape. Her lawyer, Douglas Wigdor, called the settlement a complete sellout, complaining that Weinstein accepts no responsibility for his actions, and the payments will come from Weinstein Company insurers and not Weinstein himself. Since accusers began speaking out against Weinstein in 2017, dozens of lawsuits have been filed by women against the film producer, including a class action and individual cases. So all of that stuff is basically going to be forgotten about very soon as a result of this type of settlement. The New York Attorney General's case has been fraught after a previous $90 million settlement fell apart when Eric Schneiderman, the previous New York Attorney General who was overseeing settlement negotiations, stepped down over accusations of his own sexual misconduct. So there was a $90 million thing that got dropped, and instead only $24 million goes this time out of 47. So they've halved the amount that the insurance company have to pay, and only 24 is going to the accusers stroke victims. So the previous Attorney General stepped down because of accusations of misconduct, sexual misconduct. To claim their share of the settlement money, women must submit a form detailing their experience and documentation to support it. That doesn't sound very nice, but obviously this is how it works. The court will divide accusers into two tiers, with one group eligible for up to $150,000 and another group able to receive up to $750,000. The claim form includes dozens of detailed questions about their encounters with Weinstein, such as whether he disrobed during the meeting, locked them in a room, or physically restrained them. Weinstein in February was found guilty of criminal sexual assault and third-degree rape in a New York court in a verdict that was viewed as a landmark legal test of the Me Too movement. He also faces criminal charges in Los Angeles, underscoring the scope of accusations against him. Okay, so that hasn't started yet, the LA stuff. Weinstein has denied the charges. His lawyer, Imran Ansari, said Weinstein remains intently focused in defending himself on all remaining legal matters, including the appeal of his criminal conviction, civil lawsuits, and the charges filed against him in LA. Donna Rotuno, the lawyer who led his defense in criminal court in New York, declined to comment. Well, she's probably had enough money now to be able to walk away happy. And then if you look down, normally you have comments here. Comments have not been labeled for this article. Interesting.